Can you talk a little bit about how a national popular vote would change the way that presidential campaigns are run?
Yeah, so I think a really exciting thing about a national popular vote, right, is that it would force, and again, this is a bit speculative, but if it was me running a presidential campaign with a national popular vote, I would be orienting the campaign around the issues that the top issues for voters across the country, rather than niche, you know, sort of narrower or niche issues that cater to swing voters in 3 to 4 swing states. We look at this election. We spend a lot of time talking about the issues that Americans that we spend a lot of time talking about issues other than the ones that Americans say are most important to them. And it also and look, no matter where you are in the country, in this cycle, voters are saying the cost of living, prices, inflation is top of mind. It will be really exciting to have candidates be talking to voters about that issue across the country, coming up with real solutions, and then being elected with a mandate across the country. It's also, beyond how it would change how campaigns are run, it would give, I think, elected presidents a real mandate to govern. They would be campaigning on issues, governing on those issues, and versus, and that would be their top priority. If you weren't doing things that were broadly popular, broadly top of mind to voters, you wouldn't get elected. I think it improves our discourse and makes it and returns it to a more substantive election.
Yeah, I think two exciting and principal changes that will occur for sure. And then I'll answer the question on the media because it's an interesting question. Two things principally that will happen is that campaigns will be polling in all 50 states, right? Because now how much you win or lose a state becomes important. Right now, we ignore any state where the outcome is predetermined based on polling, right? So I think that's important that every American voter will be heard by the campaigns and the candidates who run. I also think you'll see a reinvigoration of grassroots politics in all 50 states, unlike we have seen in a very long time. And the reason that is because political muscle on the ground, right, is what turns out votes in states. And you will not be able to ignore any state, let alone Alaska and Hawaii, for example, which right now, I mean, the elections are often called before their polls even close. You know what I mean? So it's going to be reinvigorating to the grassroots politics movement. I don't know I think that's good for American political parties. And I mean, all American political parties, because the candidates who are most organized, driving out the most voters, are going to win the most votes. On the media side of things, media is an important part of politics. I mean, if you're interested in sort of dispersing spend, for example, in presidential elections, right? Right now, they spend more money they used to spend more money in the battleground state of Florida than 42 other states combined. Florida's got a little different status now, and that's a message to the voters in Pennsylvania. Yeah, maybe you're a battleground state now, but you have been ignored before and will be ignored again. You know what I mean? But if you're worried about the concentration of resources in battleground states, which I think is something to be reasonably concerned about, the solution to pollution is dilution, right? So now every presidential campaign is going to be in every political market, right? And they're going to be fighting for the hearts and minds of every voter in every precinct in this country because it matters. That's what happens in gubernatorial elections in Pennsylvania, right? They don't just hunker down in Philly and Pittsburgh. That T becomes important to the calculus of how you're going to win a governor's race. Well, that's because it's a first past the post system where the candidate with most votes wins. I will say on the editorial side, that's what a lot of journalists find really interesting about a national popular vote. Missouri is not in the compact, but we had a hearing where one of the key people who testified in support was sort of the Missouri News Association, right? Whatever it was, because they were like, look, we're totally ignored in presidential elections. If they come here, we'll have editorial content to sort of cover and keep our readers or our listeners or our viewers informed from a local perspective. All that stuff becomes really important in a national popular vote for president. Under the current system, Missouri, it's crickets. You know what I mean? That's what you're covered in.